When his wife suggested they play pickleball for date night, he was thinking, great. Now all he thinks is, great, pickleball. He's Kevin Perkins, founder of Crown Pickleball. He's on the court with me. It's the Pickle with Mickle interview series 0, start. All right, here we are, middle of the week on a Wednesday. Pickle with Mickle interview series on the court with me today. I'm joined by Kevin of Crown Pickleball. We're going to be getting y'all over the hump into the weekend. Super excited to have you here with me, Kevin. First, I just say, how the heck are you? How have things been going so far this week?
Everything's been pretty good. We've had the fires here in California. I'm actually about 80 miles south of there, so kind of lucky in the sense that we haven't been affected that way. But overall, today was like 70 some degrees outside. And, it was in light of that stuff, it was a really bitchin' day here. So.
Yeah, I'm over here in Arizona. It was a beautiful day once it was uncold. Do you get some of that Arctic chill in the morning down there where you are? South of LA, you gotta get it. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so we live by the Lifetime where they have the PPA in June and December, and it's nestled in this little valley. And so what happens is all this cold air just gets in there and stuff. And usually it's either really warmer by about 10 degrees when in the summertime or cooler by about the same. And it's really interesting. We call it the airplane effect because you look out, if you're up on the hill, you can see this like it looks like a sea inside of like the clouds. It's pretty trippy.
That's awesome. Well, hey, I appreciate you mentioning, and we can both say we hope everything for the folks affected by the fires goes well, because so many people have been affected. If local responders from your communities got up there, even 80 miles away, to help out, let's help. They're safe, and everybody gets through that. But we've got such important stuff to get to here today. Of course, in the Pickleverse, a lot of things going on. First, I've got to know, the people want to know, how did we get to Crown Pickleball? When did you get pickle fever, as I like to say? Let's get the origin story all the way back to when it started. What kind of sports did you play growing up as a kid? Have you been in California for your whole life, or did you migrate out there?
No, I grew up here, and yeah, thanks for asking for the backgrounder. So my history with Pickle goes back to maybe like 2021, so right when we were kind of coming out of COVID. We were kind of recently empty nesters, and the wife was like, "Hey, you want to go take a pickleball class at the local community college?" And I was like, "Pickleball? What the heck? That's the dumbest name ever." Like, Aisha, she's like, "Come on, it'll be a date night." And I was like, all right, that sounds cool. We'll do it. And we showed up, and just like pickleball is in real life, it was just a bunch of really happy people, happy to see us. They included us right away. We started dinking at the kitchen, and I was like, you know what? This is like full body ping pong. I got this. This is fun. And the next thing I know, I'm hooked. And now the rest is sort of history. I just kept playing, and just as a product person, I've been kind of doing the entrepreneurial shuffle for the last 25, 30 years on tech. So for me, this is like, passion project, started with balls, and now we're into paddles and nets and a whole bunch of other stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's been a pretty interesting journey. I met a lot of really cool people. People have acknowledged our brand as being a top ball in the space. We also have started making really good paddles too at a good value. And so that's kind of how we've been wanting to proceed with our vision of pickleball, and not be like big pickle. And going forward, it's kind of it's serving us well. We're about to do some really cool stuff in 2025. We did a private label deal with an Italian padel company that's going to start licensing our balls.
Time
We're
out.
working.
So let's talk about that real quick, because here's the here's the next thing. And I appreciate you shedding some background, and we're gonna hover around that a little bit, because I think when I first noticed you, you were just balls. It was all pickleballs in the beginning, like you said. And I started following you, I think, on Instagram, and people had played with some of the balls. And then, of course, I just had Greg on the show not too long ago, and you guys go way back. So shout out to Greg from Rain and Win. Get raw when you can, and get some crown balls and paddles. We'll get into that. Padel, though, fascinates me just like pickleball. I've not had a chance to play it. And shout out to Italy, Forza Italia. Spent some time over there growing up as a kid. My dad was in the Navy, but it's huge in Europe. There's only a few places here in Arizona to play. There's only a few places across the country right now to really play Padel. So I think that's pretty cool. First of all, have you played the game?
No, I mean, to me, Padel is like, listen, I'm 53. I just had two knee replacements last year. I had my knee anniversary on in January this year.
Are you playing
So,
adaptive pickleball? Are you getting away with that then?
well, I'm a 3-5 at best, right? I mean, I don't know. Listen, I like to have fun. I love, the fact that people do tournaments and want to be competitive. Yeah, I get all that. But for me, it's always been about the journey of physical wellness and health and good mentality, being around people that just enjoy having a good time. And that's kind of what this has been all about for me.
Well,
But anyway, for the Dell score, I mean, if I could hustle like some of those guys at that level, sure, I'd play, no problem. I mean, it's like racquetball times ping pong times, beach tennis or whatever they call that. It's pretty
it's
amazing.
crazy. Yeah, it's like there's a cage or something you can hit through here and go through there. And if I ever get a chance to play, I'm gonna certainly uh, get into it because I think that's a thing that's going to be big. I don't know that it'll skyrocket the way that we've seen pickleball, but we're certainly going to see some more padel in the future. Let's go back to growing up in California. Glad that your knees are okay and knee anniversary. Happy knee anniversary. But you can still get out there a little bit on the court and have fun, just like you said. I'm a solid 3-5 myself. I play in tournaments every once in a while because I like to. It's not all about I got to go get that medal or let me do this or do that. I'm 52, so I'm kind of grounded in where my game is and also where it can go. Can I get a little better? Sure. I see some of these guys that are my age that are really good for crying out loud.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
yeah.
I mean, props to them. But so talk about that. What kind of sports did you play when you were growing up? Were you a tennis guy? Obviously, you mentioned ping pong a few times, so I bet you hung out around the rec center where the ping pong table was, like me.
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up actually here in town in San Clemente, which is right by the beach. So naturally very aquatics driven. So, swimming, surfing, body surfing, boogie boarding, all that good stuff. And then, you know, coming out of college, I kind of got burned out and just sort of just, did everything from, walking to weights to whatever, just overall, health. I lifeguarded for 8 summers at the beach. And,
Nice,
just did really the Southern California shuffle, as I would call it, whatever, just to be active, everything from biking to hiking to whatever. There's so much to do around here.
for sure.
So that being said, yeah, just grew up around here, and then the ping pong thing was interesting because I lived in a condo. So my parents originally lived in L.A. They got divorced. My mom got the condo that was down at the beach, so that's where I grew up. So whenever the waves were flat, we would go to the rec room where they had ping pong and foosball and all that other stuff. So it's just sort of like kids being kids, having a good time and stuff. And so that's how you know learning how to spin, learning how balls top spin down, stuff like that. All these things that are really important in pickleball, just like clear carried right over kind of thing. So although I'd love to say I had the tennis background, and I think that serves these baseline drivers really well. My forehand isn't as good as some of their others. I excel when I get to the kitchen. I've got good hands. I can anticipate. I can roll balls. I
Nice.
can, do some crazy spinning when people aren't expecting it, stuff like that. That just adds to the whole fun of it.
I think that's where the game is still really fun is when you're up there at the kitchen and you're just waiting for that little bit of room and then you flick it right back at them. And I think that's still what makes the game really fun. You mentioned it looks like it's coming back 2 or 3 feet from the kitchen that I see these flying forehands and the things that the pros are hitting. But hey, that's the pro game and that's where it's going for you, me, other people, a lot of people that are playing pickleball. It's to get out there and have fun, make connections, Find a way to get back outside, stay active. What's most important, whether you're 53, 52 like me, 53 like Kevin here, 18, 19, 7, 77, stretch a little bit, drink some water, take care of yourself, folks. It's not just getting out there and running around because you're going to pull something. It happens too much. And
Yeah.
it's, the pickle injury. All of a sudden you see somebody's limping around and, oh, I played pickleball for the first time. Well, you should try to stretch. So now let's fast forward a little bit to, did we just start Crown in 23, 24? When was that? Yep.
June of 23. Yeah, not that long ago. Just to your point, the industry is rapidly growing quickly, especially on the rec side. Obviously, we'll talk probably more about the pro side of things momentarily. That dumpster fire. Speaking of fires, but yeah, I mean, just in the matter of hey, I think I want to make a ball. Oh, okay. Start researching, figuring how to do that. Okay, I'm going to invest $500 in getting a small lot of balls made overseas. Seeing what my onshore options are. Blah blah blah. Just trying to figure out what all my supply chain would look like if I was really going to, jump into this. Bring them to the courts. Hey, everybody, check out these balls I just made. And people going, oh, this is really cool. Can you change that? And so going through a period of like, 2 months maybe of some alterations and getting, the right formula to get that ball right.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up advertising or being the first sponsor of the King of the Court podcast, and that just blew us up. And we just had tons and tons of people from all over immediately start using our stuff, getting really good feedback, good reviews and stuff like that. So that's kind of the genesis of it. I mean, in a period of 6 months, I was laughing like, I can't believe how fast this grew. What was intended to be a fun little experiment, side hustle, whatever you want to call it, is turning into being like, hey, maybe in
This
about a year's time, I'll grow this into an acquisition. Somebody wants to buy the Crown brand for me, we'll see. But in the meantime, having a great time doing it.
Right. And you never know. 2, 3, 5 years, bigger company might say, hey, we do want that brand and they want that ball that you've developed because a lot of people like it. I've played a few times with it. I think it's great. What I like to say is it's a little shinier than your standard ball, which means it's going to get a little slicker. You can get some spin on there. Sometimes it doesn't jump right off that core. You better be ready if you know how to put some of that good spin. Some of those, what I like to call the quicker balls, and I think yours is one of those,
Yeah.
can do that. When you know how to put that thing on it, it don't come back up. And it's a nice little way to start your serve sometimes. Yeah, or get that nice little backhand flicker right off the court. But I mean, started with balls. You mentioned paddles. I love that mini net. Wink, wink, hush, hush. But that thing is cool. And you've got full size nets. You got apparel. I mean, you've covered all the bases now in a short amount of time. We started with balls and now we're going to rip the band-aid off and we're going to get all over the place. But let's talk about paddles. It's going to lead us into the pro game. It's going to lead us into the overseeing of paddles, the new testing, the new costs associated, for crying out loud, with putting a new paddle into play. And we'll hop right into it. You mentioned how you started and you get X amount of quantity from here. You need to find a supply chain when you were starting the balls. My little journey when I first started this was, paddles. There's only seems to be like two huge paddle manufacturers. What if I came in and got my own thing going? And so I did. I went out and tested the waters and made a paddle that's got my logo on there. It's adorned with multiple like awesome signatures on there, and it's got Annalee Waters on there too. Probably the
Nice.
best, probably the best one I have on there is Marcus Allen, brother. He was out at the PPA
What?
Vegas deal watching
What?
pickleball. Hell yeah.
No
I
way.
sat right
Nice.
down next to him and got his signature. After I told him how he broke my heart in that Raiders Redskins Super Bowl, he told me I need to get over it. And he told me I needed a better Sharpie because my Sharpie was running out. It was awesome.
Oh, that's great. What a story. That's a good story.
But,
Yeah,
but
it's funny. You talk football. I mean, Marcus Allen, he was like the golden child around here for such a long time, and some many good plays and good seasons with him, locally at, in the college tier as well as the NFL and stuff like that. So it's just, yeah, I get it, man. That's super cool.
Yeah, I thought it was just wild. But so back to where we started there, so I made, a little run at paddles, realized right away I personally didn't have the infrastructure, one, to make another run, keep up with what I thought. I never even got to submit my 6 paddles to USAPA, which is what you had to do, let alone
Yeah,
whatever the cost was going to be a couple years ago at that point, which was a cost involved. However, not to where we are today. Fast forward, you've got about 3 different paddle designs currently. You've got the trainer paddle. Two, all your paddles USAPA approved? But let's talk paddles.
sure. Yeah, so just to back up one half point to that, you mentioned our mini net, and that's right now becoming our second most popular selling item.
I bet.
That mini net is such a useful tool. I mean, it's cool because it takes 90 seconds to set up. It's all the parts are connected, so you don't even need instructions. You just, it's done. And you can put it up against a wall, so you can take like 2 of the feet and flatten them out. You can take it with you to a tournament if you want. There's nowhere to warm up. Oh shoot, just whip out the mini
I've
net and just start.
seen them at
Bang.
in like the concessionaire, or
Yeah,
let's call it vendor row, and it's your
yeah,
net set up, and people are
yeah.
dinking, right? It's awesome.
Yeah, it's super cool. So that kind of made us think through like how we wanted to proceed. And so tying that back into the paddles, I mean, 2025 is really going to be about evolving out of taking what we've done with balls in terms of, creating a quality product, guaranteeing, you're not happy, you can get a refund or replacements and stuff like that. And translating that into where we're going, with this company, which is to make some really quality training products for the 3-5 to 5 level, people. So from a paddle perspective, one of the things I liked. So first of all, again, I like to spin. I like to hit the ball hard, but I also like to have control. Some of these paddles are so poppy, the ball will just launch, and so it really kind of, I mean, in some cases it might be better, but it forces you to really kind of like be really compact, really thoughtful in what you're doing and so forth. And not everybody's at that level, right? So there has to be this blend of paddle capability that can adjust for people who, are still using a lot of their wrists when they're hitting the ball, or if they're taking these really big, ground strokes when they're hitting and stuff like that. Obviously, a paddle that has a little less, pop on it is going to be better in those circumstances. Whereas somebody who's at the kitchen and they're playing pickleball 2.0 where the ball's going really fast, you're not going to want a super poppy paddle because that ball's going to launch. It's going to go out. Right. And so what you're more interested in is grip and having that ball hit and then go down at their feet. Right. So, again, I don't profess to be a pro or an expert. I'm learning as I go. I actually take lessons from one of our sponsor or one of our sponsored athletes, Walter Lau. He's a pro, and I'm learning all the time. So I mean, listen, if you're not learning, you're not having fun, and you're not having
No,
fun, why do it?
I get
So
schooled every time I step on the court. I learn a lesson. I'm telling you. I mean, I'm a solid. Well, my duper will tell you one thing, and we can talk about dupers and oodupers and all that too. But he'll tell you one thing right now. Let me tell you, it's not what it is when I get on the court, because I haven't been playing for a little bit. And when you step off the court, whether it's just from training with a friend or just getting out there and playing with your friends, you're going to have a little dip. And now, just a quick side note, my buddy asked me to play in a set partner league with him that's going to start on Tuesday. And I said, all right, but you have to carry me for the first couple of weeks. We'll see how it goes.
yeah, yeah, I mean, we'll talk about. I have some ideas about this too, and how to make it that whole rating system a little bit more meaningful for the rec people who aren't playing in a lot of tournaments or no tournaments. But let's jump back to paddles. So
Absolutely.
so balls, nets, and now paddles. And so we've been doing a lot of market research and basically doing our tests, right? So we did a first run of what is the Carbon Blade 14, which is our USAPA paddle. And we went through that process like 6 or 8 months ago. It got approved. We had a bunch of people using it. We did some sales. Actually, we sold out. And the paddle, it still holds up incredibly. It's just it has some minor like paint chipping effects. And so we had to kind of go back to the drawing board to make sure that
Is
wasn't
chipping
happening.
off like the faces off the Upper
Around
edge.
the edge,
Okay.
yeah. It's mostly when people drive them into the paddle holders at open play and stuff like that. It's like metal or whatever. They're scraping, and so it's really super super minor stuff. But aesthetically speaking, if you do that with a Yola or a Selkirk, they're not. It's not going to happen, right? So we just have to be on that level of quality and expectation, but at a price point that's lower and more reasonable, because I
For
still
sure.
think that it's a very price elastic environment. You've got older people who are watching their budgets. You've got younger people who don't have any money yet. And you have people who are like, I don't really know if this paddle is going to work out for me or not. So people aren't really, pretty risk averse when it comes to doing that. So anyway, so we're now in our second version of the V2 of the Carbon Blade 14, and it's super, super solid. We made it so that it has a very elongated, like drive. People call it the sweet spot, but I call it the drive train of the paddle. And so it's not just a center spot that you hit; it's actually in the entire part of the center of the elongated face. We worked with the manufacturer to create that environment, and it has has carbon fiber T700 stuff. It's in that sense, it's pretty typical, but man, everybody who plays it, especially people who do a lot of forehand driving and stuff, just love that paddle. It's super cool.
Is that the one
And
with the
then
long handle, or is that the final one?
this is actually the first paddle that we had, but the second version of it.
Okay.
And now we're moving in now. So once that got launched and we were redoing it, we decided to start doing more paddles. And so currently the one that I'm really loving is the Carbon Blade 16, which has the 3K carbon fiber weave across the face. So it picks up the ball incredibly. I mean, it just like grips the ball. You can really do great top spinning with it, great
Fun,
placement. We
fun, fun,
we
fun.
even we even have another one of our guys, one of my guys tested it out, and his name's Yvonne, but I call him Ivan just for fun. But he came up with a great configuration of putting lead basically along the throat all the way up to the tip top of the sides, but then left the head open, which seems kind of counterintuitive. Most of the time, people put lead on the top to make it really heavy on the swings. This paddle, incredible pop and good control. So I was
Nice.
just like blown away. And so I made a couple videos and stuff. I'm going to do another one that shows people how to set this up using that paddle, but that's going to be probably our top seller here pretty soon.
Very good. Very good. I mean, paddles always the hot topic, and because of paddles being hot, how much? I mean, can you talk about the what it takes to get a paddle tested, what it takes to get a paddle approved? It's going to segue us into the PMA that you're a part of, and I want to learn a little more about that because with stricter, let's say, rules and higher costs associated now with me submitting a paddle to get it stamped USAPA, to get it sent out to the 6 teenagers in the different houses and they're weighing them and testing the cores or whatever they're doing, it's pretty significant. And when you, let's say you've got that one paddle that's approved, you can submit, I think we were talking version 2 of that, and it can still be approved. But if you wanted to submit a new style, let's say, with a Kevlar face, which is the rage and whatnot, that has to now be resubmitted, retested, reapproved to be and stamped. And there's a separate cost for that. And I think where I want to go with this and get your thoughts, Kevin, is can we see this be an impact from rec people buying paddles on the surface because it doesn't have that stamp? Certainly, it means a pro player might not be playing in a pro tournament. And how will that affect as we even kick it forward into the pro game and what the hell is going on over there? I threw a lot at you only because you told me you got quick hands at the kitchen. I know you can handle it, but go ahead and talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So this whole process has been like completely, this is the wild, wild west. Let's be completely frank here. This sport started ages ago, but it didn't really kind of become an official thing until maybe like what 2014, 2015, and they created the USA pickleball approved standard for equipment. And what that was essentially a validation mark, right? So if you were a manufacturer, you could belong or to the USAPA and then have this little logo imprinted to give some sense to the customer, you know, this is a verified, approved paddle for competition or whatever. And I think that served the community pretty well up until maybe a couple years ago, when all of a sudden, you had a couple, you had Selkirk and you had maybe a couple other, Engage and some other, paddle companies that were pretty dominant in the space. And then Yola came in and Yola signed Ben Johns and he just got everybody super excited about it. And, all of a sudden those paddles are, two 18, 248. I don't remember what it was like. What? And but they were pretty good paddles, and all of a sudden people are like, you know what? Maybe we should invest in some really good paddles, and that's when everybody went bing. Let's do the same thing, and so you saw this proliferation of people, trying to get into the paddle market, thinking that if I build a paddle, they will come. And
Right.
the irony there is that most of this stuff is made overseas, China
Yes.
mostly. It's probably made in like 5 factories across the entire spectrum. Yeah, okay. But those, what happens is all those companies basically are fronts for the main manufacturing. So you might be in, pickleball company D, but they're outsourcing it to company A on the backside, and you don't ever know about that, right?
Right.
So honestly, your supply chain is really coming from mostly the same place. It's really not that super hard to find where the big guys have made their stuff in the past with certain manufacturers and things like that. And so it's like, well, shoot, I'm going to get in the pickleball game. I mean, look, you made a paddle, you got your, some samples. It's pretty fairly, I wouldn't say easy, but it's pretty simplistic process. It's not like you have to design it from the inner core elements and do all that.
Uh-uh.
It's already baked. It's a pickleball paddle. This is a piece of plastic, and at the end of the day,
Right.
it's made out of PE, and it's got pole differentials and things like that. But it's still pretty simple, right? So I think that kind of just got out of control, like maybe 2 years ago. And USAPA was like, wait a minute, we have all these submissions now. We should raise our price. Because we send this off to some fancy, testing facility in Massachusetts, and they run, compression tests and deflection tests and like, who cares? It's a pickleball paddle. Let's
Right.
get back to what this is, right? And so they're like, well, we can justify charging, whatever. And I don't remember the complete trajectory, but it jumped a lot. So let's talk pricing. So I think it was like $2,000 around 2022. Then it jumped up to 3,000. Then it went to 4,500. And now at its current state, it's $7,500 a paddle.
Per paddle.
Paddle. And there are no more derivatives. They say that there are, but truly, if you make one little tweak on it, they go, oh, that's a new paddle.
And resubmitted for testing. Interesting.
Yeah, if you were talking about Greg at Raw Paddle. He had to fight with those guys because basically it's the same freaking paddle, but he just had different designs on the color, and so they were like, "Well, it's a different paddle." And he's like, "No, it's the same paddle, just a different colorway." So so I just go back to the point of like, okay, if I was just a dedicated paddle company and I had 10 paddles,
Hmm.
$1,000, I have to invest just to get it approved so it can
Right.
be played in a tournament.
Right.
Now, if I'm trying to sell to people who are 3 O's, 3 5s, 4 O's, 4 5s, what does that get me? What does that do? That doesn't do jack for me.
Right.
So I just
And
gotten to the point. Go ahead.
well, and I was going to say, can it, short term, long term, devalue the governing, the authority power that USAPA has, especially when you've got other entities battling to be the voice of pickleball in a charge to make it an Olympic sport. And so I mean, let alone the $200, $300 cost for a paddle. And I appreciate your midpoint. Like you said, it's got to be attractive for everybody to buy and it's got to be playable. But I think you might see that, especially from a rec player. It's like, well, I like that paddle. I played with it before. Back to Greg. I like this one because it's pink or aqua or all the different cool colors he has. That's the same paddle. There's no way I'm resubmitting that and almost paying 10 grand every time. And so I think one, we might see some of these, what I call paddle.comers fall away because they won't be able to make another paddle. You know what I mean? And so, love to get your thoughts on that too before we even get into some of
Yeah.
the Pro Tour and USAPA and what that might affect to players who want to play a crown paddle on tour. And
Yeah.
it goes through the PMA. Let's talk about that too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, so on that score, you're right. It's like, what is first of all, what does that even get me having that mark that says USAPA? If USAPA, if nobody is playing tournaments,
Right.
and so I think the other thing is that you know companies like myself, we're doing a lot of innovative stuff. I mean, we've made different colored balls, high contrast balls for courts that have bizarro colors where yellow just doesn't make
Doesn't work.
sense.
Yeah, you can't pick it up.
Yeah, you can't pick it up. We've made an app for scoring, so you can do it on your Apple Watch. I mean, we're pushing. To me, it's obvious because I'm a player, and I go, oh, wouldn't it be great if people could just say, what's the score? You could just go, oh, it's whatever, easy. Let's make the app. Let's get it done. Yola is a company I see doing very similar. There was a need. They could see that Pickleball 2.0 was starting to happen, and so they started making their Gen 3 stuff. And those paddles are pretty cool, I have to say. And so, all of a sudden it's like USAPA goes, oh, we can't control the game anymore. You know, these paddles are too hot. And so, they come up with these cockamamie kinds of excuses. And then they go, let's raise the price. That's how we're going to filter everybody out. And that's just like the dumbest thing ever. If you want to grow the sport of pickleball, you make it more accessible.
Sure.
Better pricing, better products that are made by reputable companies, etc. And so, this philosophy then transcended over to the PPA, which I call Big Pickle, because they're a conglomerate. They do Pickleball Central, PPA, they have the UTR rating system, they have, multiple entities because it's all basically, a monopoly. So they're like, you know what? We could do the same thing if we want to get people. So they wanted to get people to come in and become advertisers, and they created these really artificially high standards. It costs I think $2,000 a paddle or $100,000 a year media buy. So they like become our sponsor, or you can't use nobody can use your paddle on our
In an event or
tour
on the
in
tour.
our tour. And so I think somebody probably said, hey, that's illegal. You can't do that. And so then they adjusted it and said, oh, you can use any paddle, but it just can't have any logoing on it. It has to be a black paddle, a generic paddle.
It has to be plain.
So, what's the point of that? Like as actually, I was this close to actually starting to work with them. We were going to start advertising on PBTV. Um, and kind of like see where that could go, get into Pickleball Central, and this whole thing came up, and I'm like, you know what, these guys, I don't need their mark. I mean, I don't need any of this because at the end of the day, I'm the one who's putting all my energy into creating some good products and a good relationship with the customer directly.
Right.
We work right off of a website. We don't even have a retail. We don't need a retail. We can do it all like the way
All right.
Amazon has been doing it.
Let me cross that off my list then. So I had down here later. It's an online game, right?
Yeah. So I think I look at the sort of this holistically, and it's like, what really needs to transpire is we need to have really a manufacturers association, something like the way CE is to electronics, right?
Sure.
We flip over a TV or a radio or something, and you see that little CE symbol. That it's blessed. It's basically a blessing of the group saying, yeah, this is a
Uniform
reputable
standard,
company.
right?
Yep. And I don't think that's a bad thing. They're mostly self-governed. They're letting the market decide, if that company is worthy of that mark or not. And so that's kind of how I sort of came up with this notion. And so I started the Pickleball Manufacturers Association, the PMA. So
Awesome.
essentially, people who are in a similar mode where they don't really care if their paddles are being, they're not going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars sponsoring the top players to ride their paddles. They're going to just basically try to sell their paddles to the rec market. Well, that's where PMA is useful. We can band together. We can leverage a common mark that says that if they can go to pmaapproved.com and you can see all the people who are on there. They can basically use that mark in their advertising and their marketing. And really, as a trade org, we eventually when we start signing up lots and lots of people, we'll have our own advocacy and our own voice and our own ability to kind of do this. Yeah, that's the genesis of that whole thing. We just started it a couple of weeks ago. We have nearly 20 people already signed up for it. I'm sort of sussing how I'm going to make this part of my routine, my daily routine, but I definitely want to see this, grow.
No, I was on the website. You've got a lot of solid members, a lot of companies that I recognized right out of the bat, and I think that's a great idea. A standardization, uniform code, across paddles. Because what just boggles my mind still is, you talk about testing, testing, testing. This paddle's hot. That paddle's hot. I've been to a couple of pro tournaments in my day, and I'll go to a few more. When do they test them? Where are they testing them? How are they doing it? This is the test, right? I laugh. It's like, okay, right. What did we just do? And so I think it is getting a little out of control. And I think when you look at a sport that wants to become a tier sport and not a fringe sport, there's got to be some, I say, consolidation of the clans, and in that being more of a voice versus this is what we're going to do, right? Screw you and screw you because we're us. And if you don't like it, that's just how it's going to be. Because if you want to continue to draw people in, let's face it, for a tier sport to happen, they need more people watching the streams. They need more people showing up at the tournaments, because when you look at the thing on Pickleball TV and there's nobody there, that's not good for them. And that's just what they need to do. And they need to have better content on Pickleball TV. And how does that happen? They get more sponsors like a Crown Pickleball and some of these other companies that are starting to do pretty well out in the marketplace, because you do have quality. I don't know how you get it to happen, because that's all the fighting that's stopping this thing from getting to the Olympics, when you've got PPA, EUPA, USAPA, and everybody says that if they test your paddle, you can play with it in a tournament. But then I say, no, you can't, because it needs to have my mark on it. And so I love your approach, and I like this PMA. And as I mentioned, I recognize a lot of the names on there, folks. Go out there to go ahead and give the name of it again, Pickleball Manufacturers Association.com, and look at some of the companies that are already joining. And this isn't some sort of a Hatfields McCoys, people. This is just about providing some standardization, uniformity in pickleball, because a lot of us aren't looking to go join the PPA tour, even though you can make $7 million when you win one tournament. Let's talk about that a little bit, because there's a little bit of a clown show over there when I hear about all this money being reported, and then you see somebody who's been around a little while, like Jill Braverman, take them to task a little bit, coming out on social media, which I like. I mean, she's not afraid to say what she's going to say, and then they come back and kind of, it's all Teflon deflection, because you never see the proof. And
Yeah.
like, I like my guy Gabe Tardio, and they say he's going to make 800 grand over the next 3 years. Well, just show me what he made last year from tournaments, because endorsements are one thing, but actually enticing young players to convert from tennis, to think there's a path to be this pro athlete, is another. I just think it's all a mess.
Yeah, this is where, to dovetail what you're saying, this is where Big Pickle has it wrong, in my view, because when Steve Kuhn and Connor Pardo started fighting up about the tour wars, right? The PPA versus the MLP, it became like, let's sign this person. Let's just throw numbers out at these people. We'll figure it out later, wink, wink, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what happened, right? Some of these guys got completely scorched. But what incentive do you have if you're just, let's say, you're paying Ben Johns $1 million a year to be on the tour? I mean, you can kind of see it in his play. What freaking incentive does he have to do to win, to go out and just try to crush people all the time? The incentive is, if you please the boss over there, he's going to give you a raise.
Right.
It just becomes a clown show, and it's not a very good clown show, to be honest with you. If that's the model, let's look at like the Orchard Arizona League. They make it incredible experience, right? And they go out and actively promote, and they're getting people to see their products and all that stuff. That's a good model. If you're if you're into baseball, the Banana Savannas. That's You really want to get people interested. Create a show like that. Get people to be out of their box and stop being like
And
these
to,
dumb
yeah.
pickleball players. I'm pickleball, so that's all I got to do. Like, dude, you got to do a lot more than just stand there and say I'm a pickleball player. Nobody cares. Like that's the kind of like attitude that is missing right now in the sport. And so they jumped the shark by spending money on all these players who got late, in my view, got pretty lazy last year.
Yeah.
And they said, you know what, well, that's okay. We've got this much runway. We can always, get a loan, wink, wink, Jill Braverman, or we can just lean on our suppliers, hence the paddle stuff and everything else, the minimums for media buys. We'll make up the money later doing all that stuff. And guess what? That does not move the sport forward.
Right.
That doesn't get more people engaged. Like you said, it was really ridiculous when I'm like watching the Masters stuff, and literally there's like 13 people in
Nobody
the
there.
audience, and 6 of them are like the friends and other pros that are
Yeah.
watching the game.
Right.
And I'm going, dude, and when they
And
came over
this is a
here,
quarterfinal round of 16 match, and I know it got a little windy and cold out there, but these are great players that you might want to watch
right?
play.
Exactly. And when they came to somebody was like, hey, Kev, because I live right by Lifetime here in San Clemente. They're like, hey, Kev, are you going to go watch the stuff over at Lifetime? I'm like, no. Like, it's December. It's kind of cold outside. Like, I don't want to watch. If I want to go to watch pickleball, I can just go to like the local open play. And, it won't be pro level, but so what? It's the same thing, right? And so I just was like, yeah, they've got so many issues with that whole thing. I know they try to do a good job, and for the most part, some of the broadcasters are professional, and some of them you just are like, seriously, do we got to listen to you again? Like,
It's like
dude, you got
when you grow up watching sports and listening to sports, I mean, because you played the sport or you're big in the sport doesn't necessarily mean you should be there trying to play by play or comment on the sport. You've got to find some people that got some little more energy, and there's some good ones when I watch it. There's some people I enjoy. There's some that are maybe the main person that I just think are a little drabby, I would say. Yeah.
I just think they're kooky. Like, honestly, like if you really want to get you got to get some decent broadcasters who know the sport, but also don't act and say stuff that you're just like,
What the heck was
okay,
that? Right.
whatever.
You're trying to pull in a reference, but the reference is so obscure that it's only, going to land in this small circle of people who get it, and you've got to you just it
Yeah,
doesn't work, right? It's like a lead
it's
balloon.
a,
It
it's
just drops.
it's a really schmaltzy kind of motion too. It's like, oh, let's go, let's play pickleball. Like, I
It's
don't know. I
just
just
it's not good. He's
it's
the
good.
Duke of Drab. We're talking about the same person.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
and back to your point with MLP, I really like the team game, and I think a lot of people would gravitate to that if it was promoted better and if it was done better and push these teams up. Talk about the young talent coming through MLP and some of the young talent that's still going to continue to come up. But I love that team format. Of course, I mean, I love football and those team sports, but to keep eyes on it, you could build up those rivalries and you could create some of these fan favorites and you could create some of the villains if you want to out there. And I think, remember back in the day, NBA games were taped and then televised. And so for pickleball, because a lot of people might not just want to sit there and watch the whole deal, you could have Championship Sunday per se live and then tape the best parts of the other things and make it a show, to your
yeah,
and bring
yeah,
people in until you've got an audience enough to where you're really now a tier sport and people are going to be there. The whole live thing is better. I think there's a lot of room to do that, especially in today's digital age. You could do a lot of cool shit and make it a lot of fun for viewers who are just, and
yeah.
especially I say, it's the youth that's going to sustain this thing ground up. When I look around and see how many young, talented pickleball players there are, and they're all just walking around, like this anyway. And
Mhm.
that's what they're going
Yeah.
to do. But having a lot of fun. Kevin from Crown Pickleball joining me on the show here, Pickle with Mickle interview series. Go ahead, back to you, Kevin.
I was going to say was that you're absolutely right in that, you know, they're kind of in this expanded model ahead of the market, right? If you were thinking about it, you show all the qualifiers and you show all the round of 32 and then round of 16 and and it's just like it's so monotonous and so long. There's no way that that's sustainable in its current market form. That
Right.
is something where you've got this mature market and people are like craving to get into that, and you know what? You can get that, but then that's a separate subscription tier or
Yes.
something to that end, right? To your point, it's like get the coolest parts of pickleball, put it together in something that's really, like I say, the orchard part is pretty interesting too, because they do cumulative scoring. Hey, what if we did MLP where you could do subbing or
Right.
something like that,
How
right?
cool
Where
would that be to
someone's
have a
having a,
6-man roster, woman too, right? Or even 2 4s. And yeah, you could sub them in and out at the 6 point mark. You could do a lot of cool, like I said, a lot of cool things that would really draw people in. Yeah, I'm fortunate the orchard's right up the road. I think they do some really cool stuff there. And I know they're starting similar leagues in some other cities. I know my friend Jenna was starting one down around in the Oklahoma City area, kind of, and she was modeling it after the orchard. Last year was their first year and having some
yeah,
success with that. And I think the
yeah. So
National Pickleball League for more distinguished players like you and me are that's a team deal. And I think they're doing it in a good way also. And we'll just see how it all pans out.
yeah, you mentioned NPL. So we're probably going to be working with Lee Whitwell here pretty soon
Okay.
to start expanding this much greater into the rec market. And we haven't finalized what we're doing yet, but she's going to be probably on with us pretty soon as a crown player, instructor, clinic person, academy, whatever. But as far as the PMA goes, what's really cool about bringing that to the masses is we can say, look, you don't have to be a pro to have a good time. And that's kind of what's the message that's been, I think, a little bit missing with the PPA stuff is that there's this, like to your point, there needs to be this push, like you got to become pro because once you're pro, you make it. You get a paddle deal, you get a PPA sign. You're gonna be a baller. You're gonna be like Andiamo boy with his freaking Mercedes, right? Like he deserves it. But anyway, the point though is that it's like these guys have lost sight that they're hitting a piece of plastic around the small court. And this is again way in front of the market. This model is not right. There needs to be like a lot more engagement. There needs to be a lot more kind of vibe for it because they're trying to plunk a tennis, like a traditional tennis like viewing kind of model and rules and clothing and all that nonsense into a sport that ostensibly is like way up here on that score. People, wear T-shirts and their hats backwards, and
Right.
it's punk rock, man.
Yes.
It's pirate ship stuff that want to be like the tennis people because that's tennis. You know what I'm saying? So they this whole Masters thing that happened last weekend was like I couldn't even watch 5 minutes of it,
I
man.
mean,
I
I
was
think
just
it's
like,
cool that they kind of give a homage to the caddies at the Masters and they wear all white. I think that's why they call it the Masters, right? I think it's pretty cool.
I mean, I personally, I disagree. I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever. Why not make everybody wear pink
They could.
or,
Wear
yeah, or
whatever
just
you
something.
wear whatever you want. To your point, I mean, the sport is to differentiate a little bit by tennis. And how did tennis devolve over time? Is it focused only on its main people, and then it only had its main people, and then its main people went away, and you didn't know who anybody else was. And then you mentioned a Johns. We all know Annalee Waters and the Tyson McGuffins, but there's a lot of great players that are coming up, and in a tournament, when you're going to show every round, you better focus on some of these other people that you might not know yet. And that's where you really see a lot of great pickleball. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. I was gonna say during the summer when I was real busy with getting kind of the warehouse situation set up, I put a TV in there that we could watch, pickleball. And basically anytime that, the Johns brothers or Anna Lee, made it to the finals, I flipped the channel. I was just, you know what? It's Groundhog Day. I've seen this show before. Why would I watch it again? You know what I mean?
Right. Like I said when I talked about the tournament last weekend, it's the common theme all year when it comes to mixed. Who's going to get Ben and Anna Lee? I've seen a couple teams get them before. Who's going to start to be able to get them? Right. It's the same show. I think in singles we had the rise of Fed last year. Dylan Frazier pretty good. We're seeing some other faces come up there and play well.
Yeah.
And I think also to
Yeah.
your point, Ben Johns has been Ben Johns now. He's in some of this old guard we're going to see kind of slip down because they've been the
Yeah.
faces of pickleball. Now the girl, she's young, but who knows? What if her attention changes and she wants to do something when she's 19 versus play pickleball all the time? I don't know.
And I look at like Georgia Johnson and Tyra Black,
Yeah,
and I'm going, you know what, girls, you're this close to just crushing them. You're gonna run
it's
over them
coming.
soon.
I like
It's
Anna
coming.
Bright and Rachel Rohrabacher. I mean, because they're two that have done it before in the doubles against Anna Lee and CP. I really like that combo. You mentioned Georgia and Tyra Black. It's great. My guy Augie from right out here. Keep your eye on him
Yeah,
because
Augie G.
he's
Yeah,
dominating. He's awesome
he's
to
a
watch.
lefty. He's
And the
good.
and the lefty. That's right. All right, are you
Yeah.
ready for the fun part of the show? We're gonna close it off. Here comes the walk off. We got some football to talk about, and so that's where we're gonna start. Before I keep you up at the kitchen line, and we're gonna have a little speed 'em up round. I like to have hands battles up there. So first, we're gonna start with our playoff predictions. Kevin from Crown Pickleball, are you ready? It's divisional rounds in the AFC. You got the Houston Texans traveling to Arrowhead Stadium to face Mahomesy and T. Swelsey, Andy Reid, and those Nuggies. What do you got for me there?
Listen, I'm gonna just be totally honest with you. Uh, KC is gonna win the whole thing. I'm not even gonna deviate from that. Look, Andy Reid lives here in town half the year when he's not doing football. So he actually is a really cool dude. He's funny. He helps out with the local high school. Love that guy. He's a good dude. And from what I can tell, it seems like Mahomes is a decent guy too. I don't know. Maybe not. He's easy to hate because he's a winner,
Because he wins
whatever.
everything.
Yeah. And but he tries, man. When you watch, and this is kind of the same problem with pickball in some ways. You watch some of these quarterbacks, and they're the biggest pusses. Like they'll just slide in for the down or whatever. You got guys like Mahomes, like Baker Mayfield. They
Charge him.
just freaking
Charge it.
or you just like, hey, I'm gonna, you know what? I know I'm a
Drop
quarterback,
his
but I'm gonna
shoulder.
take you on. Exactly. It's so cool and refreshing to see that kind of play. And maybe it's not, self-serving. You're gonna get hurt more often than not. But man, it does make for a good show. It does make for a good viewing. And so, anyway, I just like the attitude there. Kelsey, I was kind of a fan of his, and as of late, I'm less of a fan. I like his
He
brother
jumped his
Jason
own
quite a
shark,
bit,
right?
though. Yeah, 100%.
All right, so
Jason's hilarious.
Jason's got a lot going on. I mean, now you see that guy everywhere for crying out loud, from soup
Oh my
commercials to
gosh,
cereal commercials to every morning show. So we got the Chiefs now in Nolans for the AFC. Who's going to meet him from the NFC?
that's a tough one. You know why? I think you can't see that. It's
That's
pixelated.
Redskinzilla. It's Godzilla with a Redskin helmet on it.
Oh, I know. Hmm. I really want to see it be the Detroit Lions,
Me
but
too.
I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. It's either the Eagles or Detroit.
I at the beginning of the year, I'm pretty sure I picked Detroit, Kansas City, right on
Hmm.
my show. Now I'm a diehard Redskins fans. If we go in there to Detroit and make it happen, of course I want that to happen. I don't see it happening. I was talking with my brother, the governor of Michigan, the mayor of Detroit, they have got like a free purge that's ready to happen midnight day of the game from midnight after win, lose, or draw. The rules are being streamed. The citizens know what to
Nice.
do. And so I'm with you there. I hope it's my Skins. If it's not Detroit, the Eagles look loaded and they would be playing at home as well. So We'll see, but I like that there. How about the college game? Do you think Notre Dame could beat Ohio State, or you got Ohio State beating Notre Dame?
I mean, I think a betting person says Ohio, but Notre Dame's got so much momentum for that. I don't know. It's a tough one. I gotta say, going back to your Commanders,
Yes.
when that kicker was ready to hit that last field goal, right? It wasn't a
Yeah.
point after, yeah, it was a
Field
field
goal.
goal. I was like, in my head, I was like, he's gonna hit the upright. I know he's hitting
Dude,
the upright,
he looked so
and
nervous.
he hit the upright.
They kept showing him fixing his hair and stuff, and he wasn't putting his helmet on. And I'm like, oh my god! I mean, I was ready to pick up my TV and put it through the upright for crying out loud.
I was like, he's gonna hit the upright, and it's gonna go to OT. It's like the way that whole like Kansas City thing happens, right?
Yeah,
It's just like you can feel it, and then so it hits the thing, and I'm like getting off my chair, and then it bounces through, and I'm like,
it
man,
started out
so
kind of
lucky.
like some of those kicks do, and it had like a draw, but then it had that screwball type thing, and I went, no, my
Yeah,
goodness, he's gonna miss it, and then we'll take the doink. And there, I mean,
it looked like my
sometimes
slice.
does it? Is that all right? I mean, sometimes a team just has that little bit of mojo. We had the Hail Mary with the Bears, the doink now. Maybe it's enough to take us all the way through. Favorite
Mm.
junk food?
Ooh, favorite junk food. That's a good one. I've lost almost 60 pounds in the
Good for you.
last like since May. Oh, so
Favorite
going on a
protein shake
year.
then, or a favorite meal replacement?
Nah, let's see. You know what? Lately, my jam has been Golden Spoon yogurt with Oreo cookie.
I like
That's been
that.
my thing.
I like
Yeah,
that.
that's been pretty good.
All
Yeah,
right. Pickle destination. Where would you like to go to play some pickleball?
that's pretty bomb. I went to Kauai this summer with my wife. We celebrated our 30th anniversary, and that
Congratulations.
was playing out there was pretty cool, I have to say. So anywhere tropical, maybe something like Virgin Islands or something kind of cool like that. I don't know.
That sounds good.
Alaska
That sounds
in the
cool,
middle of
right?
winter.
On a
Yeah.
glacier or something like that.
Yeah, something unique where you can video it and be like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah. Now we're close to the same orbit. You being 53, me being 52. High school crush, celebrity.
My wife. Oh, celebrity. Okay, so I met my wife in high school when we were 15.
That's a good story.
So
I only know
she's
one
my
other true high school couple that met high school, were high school sweethearts, stayed together through college, whole deal, and are married. So that's pretty awesome.
yeah. But as far as high school, like a celebrity or something like that, I would say that whole Sports Illustrated genre, Cindy Crawford,
Yes.
Carmen Electra, that kind of stuff.
Paulina Poroskova,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
for sure, for sure.
McPherson, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you afraid of clowns?
No, and I don't get
No.
why people get afraid of clowns. Are you
I am
afraid of
terrified.
clowns?
I think it was the movie Poltergeist for me. I mean, I hate clowns, and that did it. The original back in the day, I was probably like 10 years old or something, maybe 8, whenever it came out, and that was the one. I mean, clown comes out, gets the kid. I'm done. Forget it.
That's a good question. I like that one. No, I'm not. Clowns don't get me.
All right, no fear of clowns. Good for you. He's a strong man, people. So get out there. It's not clown pickleball. It's crown pickleball. Die
There
Hard
we
or
go.
Lethal Weapon.
Die Hard. That's a Christmas movie, by the
It
way.
is. It is. People forget that it is a Christmas movie. I usually like to watch the A Year Without Santa Claus for kind of my animated Christmas deal, and then you go Scrooged, Die Hard. You can't miss. It's a perfect trifecta of holiday fun.
It's funny. I was watching Godfather just for kicks the other day on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, and it was the second movie has a New Year's celebration in it. And I was
That's
like, this is a New Year's movie.
There you go. Now you
Oh,
got a new
there
tradition.
you go.
That's how
Now I
that's
got
how
a new tradition.
traditions are born, right there. What kind
Exactly.
of music? What's your favorite kind of music?
I like all kinds of music, but I do like, kind of that. If you grew up in California and the radio station like KROQ or Next, it's just sort of like the California alternative
All
sort of
right.
stuff. So everything from, Sublime and, Red Hot Chili Peppers and,
Sure.
that kind of stuff. That,
Awesome. Like them both. Like them both. Do you have a pump up song? What would you say you have do you still carry a pump up song in your head?
you know what? Lately I've been doing so many like reels and stuff. I've had to kind of like go out of, one of my kids or my wife said something like, "Do you ever play on your reels for your marketing? Is all your old stuff from the 80s and 90s? You should branch
Best.
out." So I've been like, and it's great music, right? Like,
Right. It's
but
the best.
It's the best. So I've been lately just trying to branch out. I've been doing a little bit more like rap and hip hop, a little bit more kind of like 2000s, 20, teens, stuff like that, just to kind of mix it up. But as
Right
far as a
on.
pump up song, anything really. Rock the Casbah by the
Okay.
Clash.
There we you could say no more. All you have to do is say Clash, and I'm with you. I don't understand how when I talk to some of these kids, young picklers, I'm like, all right, what's your pump up song, right? You're waiting there to get on the court. They're like, oh, I love techno. I'm like, how does that? All it is just a bunch of beats. I mean, where's the you're like pump up? Give me some Clash or Rage Against the Machine. No Metallica. I mean, what
Yeah.
are we doing now?
I'll even go to White Wedding, Billy Idol,
Yeah,
or Hungry Like the Wolf for Duran
nice
Duran.
pull, Duran Duran. Love it. Yeah, we should. I mean,
You know,
talk about great videos back in the day. Duran Duran.
heck yeah, heck yeah.
Love it. Love it. All right. Let me get you out of here. Anything you'd like to plug on the way out, Kevin? I had a lot of fun having you on the court with me. I really appreciate you making the time.
You know what, Mickle, thank you so much for having me. I just want to say, first of all, like people remember why you play pickleball. Don't get caught up in the I gotta play to improve so that I can get my duper up and stuff like that. That's certainly motivational, but I feel like once you're kind of topped out there, then what? And that's where you got to remember that being, in this community, having friends and doing all that stuff is super important. We try to support that notion. You can go to crownpickleball.store and you can pick up our balls, our paddles, our nets, and all the other ancillary items at really good prices, or even search out some of our influencers and get some discount codes off of those really good prices to boot. So that's what's there. And then also, just be on the lookout for more people, more announcements from the Pickleball Manufacturers Association. The PMA, PMAapproved.com is the URL for that. And thanks so much for having me on your show today.
Hey, absolutely my pleasure. Don't forget, folks, to go to Crown Pickleball store. No, you can get the mini net. You can get the little trainer paddle. You can get any of their great paddles or balls. PMA Association. These things is going to be great to help standardize pickleball. And like I said, a lot of fun. I really appreciate you joining me here today. Thank you so much. We'll catch up again soon sometime.
Sounds good.
Kevin, that sounds real good. What a blast that was. Thank you so much. I need that mini net. I need that trainer paddle. And all y'all out there, you just might go to crownpickleball.store. There you go. And wait until you see what Kevin has in store for us all. 2025. Stay safe out there. Stay hydrated. I'll see all y'all next time for more